Hello, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us today for another episode of RPC Unfiltered. I'm so excited about today and everything we're going to talk about. So, a couple of housekeeping things to get us started. Community is very big to us. If you follow us, you know that rings true. So take a moment to say hello in the chat and just let everyone know who you are, where you're from, what you do. Pop in your IG handle so we can all follow you and make connections with everybody else. In your Zoom chat, don't forget to change your setting to everybody so we can all see your comments so it doesn't just come to us. And speaking of getting to know you, we want to know who you are. So take a second, pull out your phone, and follow us on Instagram. We're at Rock Paper Coin. And then also follow our amazing guest, Natalie, at A Good Affair. And we'll share that again at the end, and you should see some links in the chat here pretty soon. So real quick, before we jump in, for those of you that are new to Rock Paper Coin, a little bit about us. We are a female-founded and owned tech startup. Our platform serves small business owners just like you by providing invoices, contracts, proposals, and so many more features to help you run your business in a modern and clean platform that your clients will love using. It's affordable, it saves you time, it saves you money. So if you're not on Rock Paper Coin yet, please do check us out. Use the code RPC Unfiltered to sign up, and you will get 6 months free, just like that. We also do free white glove onboarding, so we can get you up and running really, really quickly. So I want to introduce our incredible guest. Natalie has over a decade in the wedding business, and she does full service design and production on over-the-top amazing weddings and special events. Her company, Good Affair, has garnered a very strong standing in the industry. She has great relationships. She's based in California, but works all over doing destination events and has been named a top planner by Loverly and Wedlist, and you have seen her weddings in all the publications. So Natalie is known for being the creative force behind A Good Affair, and she started her passion began at a really young age through art and drawing and design and throwing parties for her friends. So it's no surprise that A Good Affair was born. And you'll hear more about this in a little bit, but Natalie is a busy lady running her business. She has 2 really darling twin boys and her pups, Piper, Birdie, and Fiona. So with that, Natalie, so good to see you. Thanks for joining
Hi,
us.
guys. Good morning.
So
I'm so excited to be here.
yay, I was thinking about, well, I was prepping for this, thinking about when you and I first met, which I don't know if you remember, but it was
I
a
do.
Be Inspired event in LA that I came down to, and it was literally months before COVID. We had no idea what the world had in store for us. So a lot
We
has
had no idea.
changed between now and then, but I've loved watching all that you've done and the weddings that you've had and your cute kids and everything. So I'm excited to chat today.
It's been a wild last 5 years. It's been crazy. So I'm very excited to chat with everybody today and just, share anything that I can that hopefully helps or inspires your business and your life. So I'm very excited to
Amazing.
be here.
Well, I know a lot of people look up to you. So today we're talking very candidly and openly. So thank you for letting us really dive in and talk about the hard things that people don't talk about very often. So
Not pretty.
I know, as a business owner, as a woman, as a mom, things get hard and life moves very fast. So I want to just talk about your real life experiences. You've had a lot of challenges in the last couple years. Is there a particularly challenging time that you faced in your business? I want to hear how you've come out the other side because you always do.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, the last year has been very challenging for me personally and professionally. And I basically, a little over a year ago, kind of found myself alone in my business for the first time in over a decade. And, my kind of right hand that had been with me for 6 years, decided to leave and move back home. And then after that, the other two departed as well. So my three full time were all gone within a month of each other, basically month and a half. And for the first time, I was sitting in this big office by myself and had some big productions coming up. I had two really big weddings, this was May, June, and
Oh
July.
my gosh.
And it was, yeah, it was a lot. And I really had to dig deep and just, pursue the success that I needed for my clients, obviously for those events, but even moving forward, kind of what was I going to do? And obviously hiring new staff. We all know that if you deal with employees, they're wonderful, but also it's a challenge to find the right fit, especially I think in this business, especially on the planning side in particular. It takes so long to train and really get people up to speed. So I didn't really have the time to do that in the short period before those big events. So it was really a challenge. And at the same time, I had, personally, my dad was going through a cancer journey that was hard. And that was kind of when things were, in the last year has been just a lot with his health. And then he passed away this March. And I lost my grandma in January. So it was just a lot all at the
Gosh.
same time. And it was the first time, I've been in business as you said for 14 years. And it was the first time that I really was challenged professionally and personally in all new ways at the same time. And that was really overwhelming. And so, I feel like I've come out of it stronger than ever, but it was really tough. And, for anyone who's in a hard season, in your business, in your life, or if it's a double whammy like I got kind of at once, I just hope that I can give some light at the end of the tunnel today because it is really hard to balance it all and to have children at the same time. You're trying to keep their life as normal as possible during all of these things. So yeah, I really dug in, and I also leaned on my friends in the industry, and that was hard for me because I'm not good at asking for help. And I honestly had never really asked for help. I'd always, had my team and done it on my own. I know there's a lot of, planners who will really have friends that they help each other out, which is so great. I just had never done that. And so it was all new, which felt uncomfortable, but also it was the best thing that I learned along the way, because when you have some people that you truly can trust and that will step up and help you when you need it, it's life-giving. It really is. And I know I see Jess on here, and she's one of my dear friends, and she stepped up and helped me during that time, which was invaluable. And so I will never forget it because I needed help, and for
Yeah.
once I had to say, I got to reach out to others and not be afraid about this competition, or, worried that you're
Yeah.
going to share secrets or whatever those feelings and fears are, because I've had them all. Um, at that moment, it was like, I just sink or swim. I need help, so I hope that I can encourage people to find your tribe, and it can be a very small, tight knit group that you really can lean on, when times get tough or you just really need that help. So.
Yeah, I think that says something too, that we all need help. I'm like you, I am not good at asking for help. And what makes it even harder is that a lot of people don't ask me for help because I don't
Yes.
ask them for help. It's kind of like a
Yes.
two-way door. And I'm like, why don't people ask me to help them? Because I
Yes.
would love to, it makes you feel good helping other
Yeah.
people. So the more you ask, the more you get to,
Yeah.
which you
Yeah. And I
mentioned.
feel the same way. I'm always like, if you need help, I'll help, and I'll help
Yeah.
you. And nobody ever asks me. And I'm always like, gosh, do they just, then you take it personally. Like,
I
do they
know.
not want my help? Is it me? Is it something we all, go to that internal, like, negative, moment of thinking like, gosh, is it just they don't want help from me? But I think it really is just everyone having that, fear of, it's hard to be vulnerable, right? In
Mhm.
anything. And I think with our businesses, there's a pride there, and just we're
Yeah.
entrepreneurs, right? So inherently we like to pave our own path. We are used to doing things, on our own and our way. And, and when you have to kind of stop yourself and go, you know what, it's okay. Like, and I think especially as a planner, because we're just supposed to be like so together all the time, that's kind of the
Right.
vision of like, we're together, we're perfect, we're, got all of our ducks in a row, and everything is just beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And it's like, but that's not what the reality
Mhm.
is. And so having those, few relationships that you really can trust each other and help each other, I learned a lot through that
Yeah.
experience. And I still do, even now that I have, a team in place again, and, have rebuilt. I still, will ask. Now I really like it, because I'm like, you guys are amazing. I just, you can show up and just like go. And it's different than having other assistants who are great
Mhm.
too, but it's like you have a whole other, you know, you essentially. And so it's
Right.
really refreshing. So when I have, my big productions, I'm calling, those ladies and asking them, hey, can you come and help me? Like it makes me work way less
Right.
hard, and I'm not as exhausted. And so it really actually has opened a door that I keep walking through, because I like it now. I've
That's
realized how
great.
much I can come home from a big production, be gone for days, and really not be so wiped out to then give all my attention to my boys, which,
Right.
that's a hard juggle. You come back, you're wiped out, you feel like you have got nothing left in the tank. And then you've got these little 5-year-olds who are like, mama, 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 I've missed you. I want to be with you. I want to, do all the things. And so I think it's great to try to, it's helped me not feel so burnt when I come back from,
Yeah.
a multi-day event or whatever it is.
So having come out the other side, if you ever totally come out of dealing with loss and all of the things you had to deal with, is there anything that looking back you wish you would have prepared yourself for your business for, like expected or unexpected? It's a horrible thing, but everyone's going to have to deal with it eventually. So whether it's like, you had team members, whether it's a one person show, is there anything that you were like, man, I should have prepped something beforehand to make this easier on myself?
Easier. Yeah. Um, I would say just really, having a team that is well educated and everything in place, so that you can step away and take care of your family when you need to.
Mhm.
Or heaven forbid, if it's us, I feel like we don't think about that enough
Right.
either. Like, what happens if you, get in a car accident or something happens, and you are out, or you have to have emergency surgery? Like, you better have a plan. And I think, of course, none of us want to prepare for all of that.
Right.
It's like doing, I mean, how many people avoid getting, a trust done or a will,
Right.
because you don't want to think about those things, but we really have to. I kind of think of my business as my other child. I always say it was my first baby.
Yeah.
And so, not making sure that your baby is well taken care of if you are incapacitated or unavailable. And so I would say, really planning for that, which I feel like I didn't do enough of. Looking back, would say really having a game plan for, what happens if X, Y, or Z happens. What happens if I'm out and like something, I have to have surgery, and,
Yeah.
something happens unexpectedly. Well, who's going to pick up the pieces, and who's going to be able to make sure that your clients are taken care of? So if you don't have employees, that's, again, looking to a colleague to say, hey, like, if I'm a photographer and I have, weddings coming up, are you available on these dates in case something were to happen? And then
Yeah.
you could say to them, like, hey, let me know your dates so we could, be a backup for each other. I think that's really smart.
That is so
You know,
smart.
right, like just having a plan, because it's like life insurance. Like, a lot of us have it. You don't really want to think about using it, but it's nice to have that in place. And it's hard to always prepare for everything when you're just going 100 miles a minute and you're doing your, your business and life and all the things. But
Yeah.
if I could go back, I think it would have helped to have a little bit more of a plan. Obviously, kind of what happened with me all at once was, all the staff was gone, so I pretty much needed to
Cool.
figure it out. But in the case of, like when my dad did pass at the end of March, I did have, a couple of great team members that were able to let me walk away for, several days or a week to just be able to focus on that grieving and all the things that come along with just, dealing with someone's death. So that was huge, to have them there and know that, hey, even if they're just communicating with our clients saying, hey, this is what's
Mhm.
happened, she will be back. If we can help you in the meantime, we will. And if not, then, let's set up a meeting for when she is able to speak. And they set everything up. So I was able to just really focus on my family.
Oh, that's good.
So that was huge. So I say just have a plan a bit more,
Yeah.
even though you don't want to think about it.
Yeah. And I think just keeping everything documented and accessible on the cloud for somebody to jump in, if you do things a certain way, maybe your timeline is your blueprint of the whole wedding day, where if there is an emergency the week of, your team or your industry in case of emergency can
Yes.
jump in and take it over. So like on Rock Paper Coin, we have folders where you can share documents, or Google Drive, you could access something like that, but just keeping it on the cloud. Another tool I really love is called 1Password. It's just a plugin for Chrome, and it saves all of your passwords. You just have to remember one, and it will keep it all in an encrypted vault. So, you don't have to remember passwords as you're logging into places, but if heaven forbid something were to happen to me, there's one master password that I have tucked away for my husband that he would have access to everything, all my logins, all my credit card numbers, all of that. So it's just, again, insurance,
Huge.
making things, if you're
Yeah.
prepared, hopefully you don't need it, and
Yeah.
not vice versa.
Exactly. I was
Um,
gonna say that, like have a list with your passwords, or have something like
right.
what you're saying with 1Password, just so that somebody can access and be able to, jump in from there. So I think planning for that, almost considering it like a will for your business, if of like, hey, if this happens, even, if I'm just out for a period of time, who can jump in and help, and kind of
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
your, emergency list.
Totally. And I want to touch on something that you said earlier, in that after your dad passed, you were able to take a couple days or a week off, which sounds like so insane. Only a planner would say, I just needed a couple days.
Yeah,
But the thing is,
that is true.
so many people are so worried to tell their clients, like, I'm pregnant, I'm going on vacation, or I've had a death, or like life things, like what's happening with you is not important. But more often than not, clients are so understanding, and people are so nervous to say, and they build it up. But a couple weeks here and there where they don't have access to you is not the end of the world. So I think that's something our industry, especially with hustle culture and having to be on 24/7 and always be accessible to our clients, I'm glad to see that it's slowly dying down a little bit, because in what other industry could you text your like accountant or lawyer at 10 at night if it's about a color swatch for a wedding that's 9 months away?
Yeah. Yes, I completely agree with that. And, I really learned about that when I was found out that I was pregnant with twins, because I that was not that was a shock of my life.
Oh my
And
gosh.
we also weren't really planning for that pregnancy at that time. And so I
Oh,
had a
yeah.
really, really busy year. And it was 2018 was a explosive year for us in the
Mhm.
business. And that was, I did some really cool weddings, and I had the, director of Crazy Rich Asians wedding and up in Napa. And I was like literally almost, I was 6 months pregnant, and with identical twins. So it was high risk and all these things.
Oh
And,
my gosh.
I was so nervous, like you said, to tell people that I was pregnant. I was so scared, especially twins. Cause then of course I thought everyone's going to think like she's going to end up,
Right.
early and in the hospital, or all the things. And people were so supportive. I mean, everything that
Yeah.
you were just saying took me right back there, because they were of course, in my mind, I was thinking, oh my gosh, they're going to want to fire me. They're going to want to hire somebody who has all the time in the world and not going through being pregnant. And they were so awesome. Like literally every single client was so amazing. So, I think if you give people the opportunity to step up and be like understanding, 9 times out of 10, you're going to get those rogue ones who are just not the nicest of people.
Yeah.
But majority are going to be great and they're going to support you and be excited for you. And you just take them along in that journey. And, at the end of the day, I completed every wedding. I made it all happen. But that was really, I came to weddings that my clients were like, why are you here? Like, go, you let your team handle it. Go, you're going to like go into labor, but I was so determined to be there because I'm so passionate about my clients and what I do. But I knew that I had their support and that was huge.
Mhm.
And I think really got me through. So, you also just have to establish kind of like you said, I can get into how I manage my clients and their expectations and my like
Yeah.
boundaries. Because I do think that that's something I had zero of early on in my career, like zilch, none, texted all the
Yeah.
time. Like I lived and breathed and had no life. Um, and I, really changed that. And luckily I did it before I had kids because then it would have been a real non-negotiable. But I really encourage anybody listening, like you have to set boundaries. I provide a luxury level of service to clients and I'm so dedicated to them and I love them dearly, but I also set boundaries because I want to be the mom I want to be. I want to be the wife I want to be. You have to set some boundaries or else you're going to miss out on your life because you're so
Yeah.
busy taking care of all of their lives. So
Yeah. And this, Natalie, you know that I was a wedding planner for many, many years. But
yes.
for those of you watching that may not know, I started a planning company called Bridal Bliss. It's Bridal Bliss NW on Instagram. I still own it, but there's a whole team that runs it, which is amazing. But just like you, for years, it was night, day, giving 100% of myself to my clients. I can't tell you of all the things I missed out of and regret it. And I wish I would have learned this lesson so long ago. But, as a newbie, you're like taking anything you can get, right? You don't have the network, you don't have the referrals yet. And so I think we all kind of fall under that trap and like, I have to do this to get the referrals and to like
Right.
pay my bills.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
we say setting boundaries, but can you share like how you do that, what the process is when you share it?
Absolutely. So, and I couldn't agree more with you. I always say, excuse me, that we're in a service business, right? And so I think inherently we're all people pleasers
Mhm.
and we want to make these clients happy. And so it becomes so hard. Your boundaries are just gone because that's your job is to make people happy. So it's
Yeah.
really hard to, establish those boundaries. But how I did that was I actually hired a business coach a long time ago. And she told me that I needed to create these guidelines. Sorry, I got a tickle.
Oh, you're good.
Sorry, guys. But to set boundaries and so she was like, you're going to create a client guidelines document. And I was like, oh, how am I going to do this? I was terrified. But she's like, this is what you're going to do. You're going to write down all of your guidelines for what you expect from them. And I was like, but they're hiring me. I am supposed to have guidelines. Like, what are you talking about? And And so I created this document and she did the worst thing to me. She made me send it to the clients that were already existing. Cause I thought, okay, I could do this
Oh
for
my
new
gosh.
clients, like, new in the game, but you're going to make me send it to the people who've already signed on. Like they're going to freak out. I was literally sweating about sending this. And again, just like you work yourself up, just like when I was pregnant thinking they're not going to want to work with me anymore. They all were fine. They were all fine. So what I do is once we go into contract and we sign the contract, then we send them, we have a whole kickoff, session and everything. But before that, we send them a doc. We actually put it in, we don't send it to them. We create their own portal and we have it in there. But essentially it tells them when office hours are, when, that I don't text my clients. That's a huge one. I have gotten more laxed about that in the last several years
Mhm.
because it's easier for me, but I do have rules on it as far as like, we don't text about anything that is, that needs a paper trail is kind of how I say it. If a client
Yeah,
texts me like, hey, I, got my dress, I'm so excited, blah, blah, then it's like, we have a chat about
fine.
that. Or do you have like a, recommendation for some random thing for, alterations or whatever. That's not a big deal. But anything that's like, we're tracking, that's
Yeah.
regarding guest list, whatever it is, it's got to be on email. Because otherwise I do not like, if your phone crashes and you lose
Mhm.
whatever, I know there's the cloud and their backup and you can say all those things, but like, it's just a good way to make them not do it anyways. So we don't text. Obviously when we get close to the wedding, and we will text. But again, it's very conversational. It's not anything that's going to be the business side of things
Mhm.
that we need to keep. So that's in there. Just there's guidelines on my schedule. I do take every Tuesday off. That's kind of changing with my kids getting into, school full
Mhm.
time. But once I became a mom, I said every Tuesday I'm off, and it's on everything. Like, unless you're on fire, you're not hearing from me on a Tuesday. And even if you're on fire, somebody else will probably talk to you, because I really like set a hard line. And that is because I really wanted to have one day that I felt like I'm
Mhm.
like stay at home mom, and I have with my boys. And so that's in there. Anything that you want them to like, being respectful, that's all in our contract too. But like, I
Mhm.
still reiterate it in the guidelines. Like, we want to have a great relationship with you. We expect to, be treated with respect, and we are going to do the same for you. Those kind of things, anything that's important to you, you put it all in there and they sign it. So it is a signed doc. So when they want to, later
Wow.
say like, oh, I want to text you all the time or whatever, it's like, oh, well, actually we signed this and this is our guidelines. And so it gives them parameters that I think make you, one, give you a bit more of the boundaries that you want, and also let them know what lane they're supposed to be in. And that's okay. People actually respect boundaries. Everybody thinks that, oh, if you give them boundaries, they're going to freak out, but they
Yeah.
actually will respect you more.
I
They really will.
1000% agree with that. People are going to push and push and push until you say stop.
Yeah.
And, once they start texting, they're not going to stop until you say, this is
Yeah.
outside my office hours, or not.
Exactly.
Like, I'll tell my planners, don't respond, email
Yeah.
them back in the morning. Or,
Right.
if you have to get it off your mind,
Yeah.
schedule an email to go out in the morning. They shouldn't see
Yep.
you working at all hours.
Yep.
But I think that's so, so important. So what's your process like? Say somebody does message you outside of your hours, or,
Mhm.
does something outside of your boundaries. How do you deal
Yeah.
with it?
Well, basically, I mean, if they do text me, and like I said, I have been more laxed about it in recent times. And sometimes my husband's like, you're gonna need to tighten up again, but honestly, sometimes it's easier for me in this phase of my life because I am juggling, really motherhood and a business. And so if it's easier for me, then I'll do it, essentially. But if they do text, let's say they text, and I just don't answer it until, like you
Mhm.
said, I just don't answer it until it works for me, basically. So if it's comes in, in the evening, and that really very, I can't even think of when that's happened recently. That, it's coming in late at night. Most of the time they're pretty good about it. But we've had a few clients that, like, I in fact just had a mom for in a wedding in June, and she was like not tech savvy at all. I mean, she could text, but like anything,
Yeah.
I mean, I printed her an entire diagram, massively gave her post-its, went like 90s style with like how she could do her. And that was really because she was it was an older couple, older mom,
Mhm.
like she is a stay-at-home mom her whole, basically the last, 40 years. Like she doesn't have a reason to be great on a computer, and that's okay. And for
Yeah.
me, I knew that about her. So for me to text her was far easier for her, and it was easier for me than waiting for her to like get an email out that would also tend to be like so much lengthier. So you have
Yeah.
certain situations that I think you can adjust yourself to, but it has to work for you. And you want it to work for your client too, but it needs to work for your life. So if someone does text at a time that, like on a Tuesday, or I'm on vacation or whatever, then I don't answer. Sometimes I have had group texts with like Kayla on my team, and so she might jump in and answer. But again, we just answer around what works for us. And we haven't had anyone be like, "Excuse me, where are you? Why aren't you answering?" Like they'll just sit there. It just sits and
Yeah.
they wait, you know? And
And
again, if it's not urgent, it's mostly the time not urgent. So we
right.
just
And if they are asking where are you, then they're not the right client either. The
exactly,
respect has to be mutual.
exactly.
We had Lynn Easton on this webinar a couple months
Oh,
ago,
I
and
mean, she's amazing.
she's incredible. But she was sharing that they do not text at all,
Yeah,
except for, I want to say, a week or two before the wedding. And
yeah,
she told the story about one of the girls that works for her, and they were out on this amazing fam trip, I want to say in Paris or something. And she got a call from a client, and the client knew they were out of town. She thought it might be an emergency. So she leaves this, I think it was a tour or something, to talk to this mom about something so inconsequential that absolutely could have waited. And she totally regretted taking so much time away from this amazing trip to deal with something that
yeah.
easily could have been dealt with. And it's just a reminder that everyone deals with this, not just newbies,
Yeah.
not just those who've been in it, like the Lynn Eastons, the Natalie Goods
Oh, yeah,
still deal with
everybody.
this.
Exactly. And you're
So,
all, I mean, we're dealing with people, right? So we're always going to get something new thrown at us. And I do think in this current, especially in the 20 something, age group
mhm,
of most brides, right, is that they live on text. I mean,
right.
it's so, and I totally get that. And so, when it makes sense to accommodate it, then we will, but across the board, we are not big on texting at all, and definitely not when it
Mhm.
comes down to anything that it needs to have a paper trail, because we want to make sure we track all those conversations, we file everything, we have it all
Yeah,
organized. And it's really hard to, even now we've been struggling with clients that we will send emails. This even happens in email where we like to subject line like everything. So I don't want to talk about 15 different subjects in
right.
one email. And sometimes we'll have a client that like literally will respond on, the cake flavor email, and suddenly it's like 15 different things that relate to all these different stuff. And then to go back and search everything is so difficult. So we'll just keep reverting back to like the previous email, like, okay, we saw that you answered here, but this is where we're going to do it. And I know that it's easier for them to just like kind of have a, word vomit of all the topics, but there needs to be organization in it, because suddenly you have 100 conversations deep in your in one subject on an email, and when they're
Yeah,
throwing in all these other things, it's really hard to be able to reference back to things. So I think just kind of gently going back to the way you want it, and if they absolutely are not respecting that at all, then you just need to have a conversation with them and
right.
communicate, and just
Right.
remind
And
them.
like you said, they'll respect you more for it.
They will. They will.
So I
And
think
just
that's so
you just
important.
tell them too, like, I want to do my job at the best and highest level that I can for you. So this will help me so much to do that. And that's what you want. So it's like, help me help you, you know? So
I
that's really
love it.
help me help you. That's
Okay,
we
well,
walk away with that today.
it's a great introduction to our next topic, which is self-care. And we at RPC are on a mission to convince everybody from veterans to newbies in the industry that self-care is so important and not selfish. And it's like we said, it's such a hustle for everybody. And you want to show that you're busy all the time, but self-care is so crucial for maintaining your balance and your well-being and being at your best for your clients and your family. So what does that look like for you? How do you practice self-care?
Well,
Or do
I
you?
laughed. I laughed at this when I was thinking about it, because anyone on here that knows me personally is probably like, oh my goodness, what's she gonna say? Because I have notoriously been terrible with self-care, which I tend to give to everybody, and then I'm at the bottom of the list. And I mean, everyone's ahead of me, including my animals. Everybody's got to have something, but this is something I've really been working towards, and I'm definitely not the self-care expert, like not even gonna sit here and pretend that I am, because I'm not. But it's unfiltered. I got to be real and raw
Yeah,
with you
I love
guys, and
it.
I'm not going to be like, oh, I go to the spa once a month. It's always booked. Yeah, no, not at all. But I have really been working on this, because I hit a breaking point a few months ago, with everything that it was just a
Mhm.
really hard last year. And I
Yeah.
I really, my tank was beyond It was like there's nothing left in it at all. And so I've really been slowly trying to work on myself and, that self-care. And so for me, what that's looked like thus far is I've really been starting a morning routine, which I am terrible about. I'm not a morning person. Hello, I do events. I'm good at night. Like I want to be not the morning. Everybody is, don't call me, before 9. And so but I've really been getting up, a little bit earlier and just going into, we have a guest bedroom, and just going into there and cuddling up with like this cozy blanket, and just listening to some like relaxing music. And then I started this book that I was going to tell you guys about. It's called
Yeah.
40 Days to a Joy-Filled Life. It's by Tommy Newberry, Newber or Berry. It's like a New York Times bestseller. Anyways, he wrote a book, but then this is kind of like a little journal. It's a daily 40 days. So every day you do a little exercise, and essentially just it's working on finding your, a joy-filled life, and how and what that looks like. So I've been doing that, and I have to say it has just made me feel so much more focused on the positives,
Mm.
because I think that I was just so exhausted in the
Yeah.
sadness, right? So, I mean, losing like two of the most important people in my life, 2 months apart, was so hard. And I'm still going through that,
Of
and
course.
processing a lot of that, and, and going through the firsts of birthdays and all those things. But this I feel like has been really helpful to even just sit in my own thoughts and kind of find some focus on the joys, because when you're in sadness, right, like it's so easy to just be there. And so this has been really great. And then I'm also just doing more and more things for myself, whether that's going to get my nails done, that, never happens, or, just going for a walk, or spending some time with my husband. Like we're doing beginners tennis right
Oh,
now in the
cute.
summer, which has been, so we had tennis last night, and it's like so much fun. We're terrible, but it's so much fun.
Who cares?
And, yeah, who cares? I don't. I'm like, so we did that, and we've been married for 17 years and together for like 20. And we have never done like a class together, or, anything like a sporting thing together. That was just like, we've never done that. And so it's been really fun. And the boys have even come and they help pick up all the balls, and which is most helpful
Cute.
for everyone. And, but it's been great. And that has been like so nice to get out, get some exercise, spend time with him, learn together, work your mind and your body. So I'd say like find, some time that, and maybe it's self-care literally on your own, or that's self-care for me too. Like I'm
Mhm.
nurturing my relationship, my marriage, and also just getting out there and moving my body in a new way. And tennis is really hard, you guys.
It
Like, I
is
don't
so
know.
hard.
Yeah, it is so mental. It's like way more mental than physical. But you get to, so we're moving around and jumping, and it's been cool. So I really, I'd say that
Yeah.
like just start with something that you can, find some focus on, something that is not related to work or business.
Yeah. I
Start there.
feel like
Baby
we're
steps.
the same person. Same, not a morning person. I hate waking up in the morning. I will stay up as
Oh,
late as I need to, but so I get up early and I work out before anyone is awake. And that's like my me time. Everyone knows that's what's going to happen in the morning, and leave me alone, because
yeah.
I'm not going to be happy until I'm done and I've had my
Yep.
tea and moved on.
Yep.
And self-care, like you said, it doesn't have to be going to the spa, getting a manicure,
Yeah.
pedicure. If that's your thing, like great. It's really
Right.
just time away, decompress, do what you want to do. My husband and I are actually golfing together, but I'm a
Nice.
new golfer. I am totally addicted, and it's the same. It's
Yeah.
outside. It's frustrating, but it's also exhilarating. And it's
Yeah.
something that when you're doing it, I'm not thinking about work. I'm not thinking about anything else. It's time with my husband. Like you said, my
Yeah.
kids come and just run back and
Yeah.
forth.
Yeah.
So you just have to figure out what that thing is for you and not feel guilty taking the time away, even if it's during a work day or not on the weekend. So be it. Nobody's going to miss you for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Um,
And
so
when
I
you can
love,
incorporate like your kids, that works great too. And
yeah,
then, it's that I'd say just do something on a whim. I saw it through the summer program with like the city. And I was like, do you want
that's
to, we
cute.
were kind of talking about tennis. I'm like, do you want to try it? And he's like, okay. So I signed us up and there we were. And, it's so funny. You do feel a little nervous at first, right? It's like the first day at
Of
school,
course.
like, but that's good. I think especially as a planner, our personalities of like we're not good at not being good at
Control.
things, right? So
Uh-huh.
it's like I need to be good at this. But it's like really good for you as mentally, I think, to just put yourself out there and be like, it's okay. These other six people stink too, and we're all just like having fun,
Yeah,
and it's a great time. So we're actually going to continue and take it into the fall, and like just we're really enjoying it. So I am
I love it.
suggest like doing something, but the morning routine is, I know that everybody that is successful, with kind of life work, they tend to always have a morning routine, and that's been a struggle for me. I've never done well with it, so I'm
Yeah.
working on it.
It's
So if I
funny
can do
too.
it, you guys can do it. 'Cause
Exactly. It's funny. People will ask, well, what are your hobbies? And for the longest time, I'm like, I don't like
have a
working out in the
hobby.
morning is not really a hobby. But
Yeah.
after golf, I'm like, I have an answer to this question that
Yes.
isn't work related. So go
Yes.
find a
Which we
hobby.
all should have one. Yes.
And it's even better if the outfits are cute. So find something that
I
fits.
mean, absolutely. Do pickleball. That's what everybody's doing, right?
Yes. Oh, that's so fun too.
Yeah. No.
Um, Well, okay, so let's talk about success. Anyone that would look at you and your business and your social media is like jaw to the floor. You're doing incredible, incredible things. But, success, at least for me, changes in meaning over time. Like if I look at my journey in just wedding planning, the Nora from 2002 was very different from the Nora in 2019 and the types of weddings and events that we were putting on and the number of team members and all of those things. So, how has your definition of success changed over time?
Yeah, that's such a great question. I think, when I started out, yeah, it was just like, I want to be the best. And how do I'm going to work so hard to get to that. And I think at this point in my career, I, that success, has really changed for me. I love what I do and I want to continue to grow and build even more. But number one is my family. Like I love being a mom. And that is something that was like such a switch for me because, we waited a long time to have kids because I had this business and I was like, I
Mhm.
can't do it all. I don't think I can, I was so afraid. And then, and then I got twins. And then it just really was like, well, you have zero control. So just, get on board. And it's been the best journey. And I think, you do change what success looks like throughout your life. And for me, there's a lot of opportunities that I still want to do, like, doing more and more destination, events. I mean, obviously I have like friends who are, who go to a lot of symposiums and, are
Mhm.
speaking and doing all these things. And, I have to look at that and say, I had a couple opportunities coming up for November and December, and I'm like, I can't be gone for 2.5, 3 weeks. I
Yeah.
don't want to be gone for that long. I don't want to be away from my babies. And that's the phase of life that I'm in with them being little. And that's a fleeting phase. And I want to enjoy all of that. So to me, a lot of the destination stuff, we do a little bit of it, but I could definitely push for more, but I'm just not at the right place for that. because of where my kids are at and
Mhm.
their growth in their life and how involved I want to be with them. And so that's okay, right? Like I can look at, I used to look
Right.
at other people and you'd be like, you feel jealous or, I want to be in that position. But for me right now, I just know that's not the right place for me and what I see as success, which I want to be successful in motherhood, right? I want to leave my boys with an amazing childhood. And that's me being present with them as much as I can. And so I pick and choose what things I go to. And I do say no sometimes, even though I would love to say yes, because for me, I would love to go, but I just can't be away from them all the time. And so, really defining your success in your goals of what you want, and those will change along the way. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that that's okay. That as you grow, you're gonna establish different things that you deem as success. For I want to leave a legacy for my family. I want to leave a mark on the people that I love, and I want to have really happy clients, and I want to love on them as well. But I think earlier in my career it was all about them, and now it's like
Mhm.
they're very important to me, but I also, what's more important is my children and my husband, and making sure that I can leave their childhood knowing that I did the best I could do, and that I was the mom I wanted to be, so I don't have any regrets. So
Oh, that's so inspiring. I love it. I love it. It's so hard to say no. You always feel
it's
like
really
you're
hard.
letting someone down, but at the end of the day, if you can't give yourself, it's a win. And that's a hard lesson to learn.
It
But
is. You
the
can't do it
more,
all.
yeah,
You can't.
the more you do it, the easier it is. Yeah, how do you
I,
deal with like, and maybe you relate to this, maybe you don't, but as a mom, a working mom, there are times that I do have to be away from my kids more than I want to be, whether I say no or not. How do you deal with that, like balancing act and mom guilt and everything that comes around with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that some days, I heard this once and I think it really resonated for me. Like some days you're going to feel like you're killing it in business, and some days you're going to feel like you're terrible. And some days you're going to be killing it on the business terrible days, you're going to be killing it in at home and in motherhood. I think that, and we really did a disservice for women, in my opinion, that when we were growing up, I know it was like,
Mhm.
you can do it all, you can have it all, you can do everything that you want. And I feel that the reality of that is just, it's not, you can't do it all at once. You can do it all in different times of your life, but I don't
Mhm.
think you can do it all at once. And I think we've set ourselves up for this, like, this goal that is just not humanly possible, right? We can't be everything to everyone and
Mhm.
be killing it in all areas. So it's like, you can be killing it in business, and then there's going to be a moment that you're going to be killing it in motherhood, and they're both not going to be killing it at the same time. It's just not, there's
Right.
not enough hours in the day, right? And that we have to be okay with that. And I think that no one's talking about that enough to say, like,
Mhm.
it's okay that you can be getting an A+ over here for one day, and then maybe you're getting a B- over here, and like it's all gonna even out at some point, and you got to give yourself some grace, because otherwise
Yeah.
I feel like we all feel like we're not successful enough in these different aspects, but it's just unattainable. We're only one human being. Like there's only so
Right.
much that you can do at one time. So really juggling that, and I feel that, at least, that sometimes I'm like killing it as a mom, right? And then there's other times that I'm like not, and I feel like I don't have patience, and I get that guilt of, oh my gosh, I
Yeah.
was snapped at James or something, and it is always a struggle, and I definitely don't have it all down. But I think trying to balance, like when I do go out of town, because I do leave them.
Mhm.
I left them for the first time when they were like not even 3 months old, and I had a wedding in the Bahamas, and
Oh
I
my
was gone
gosh.
for 9 days, and I cried the entire way to the
Oh.
airport. I think I cried on the whole plane ride.
Oh
And
my
then it
gosh.
was the hardest because they were literally like 2.5 months old.
So
It was
little. Yeah.
excruciating. But that was something that I needed to obviously do. But then when I do leave, I always, like, we always talk about how many night sleeps I'm going to be gone. And we count down those sleeps. So I'll talk to them and say, and they'll be like, there's 2 more night sleeps, one more night sleep. And so we really talk about that. And I don't talk to them every day that I'm gone either sometimes, because I think it's harder on me and
It
harder
makes
on
it
them.
worse.
It makes
Yeah.
it worse. Sometimes and I'm better at going and fully focusing. Like people say to me, oh my gosh, you get to take your family with you, like when you're,
Oh,
doing a
God.
wedding in Bahamas or Miami or wherever I am. And I'm like, no, that sounds like the
No.
worst plan ever. Cause then I'm going to have extreme mom guilt because they're going to be sitting in my grasp, but I can't be with them. And I'm also going to then not be as good and focused at my job. So I've
Right.
never taken them to anything. And I probably never will because until they're like teenagers and they will just be
Right.
fine not hanging out with me anyways. But I think that just going and getting being really focused on what you're there to do and your job, and then you come home and we always do something really exciting. So we'll talk about like, okay, when mama gets home, like let's have a swim day, or let's like go to the zoo, or so I
Hmm.
give them and myself something to look forward to for when I get back. And then I just make that a really undivided attention. Like my phone is not, being looked at. Like I'm really, really focused on them. So, I think picking and choosing what is important that you really need to be at, and then, trying to stave off the mom guilt by giving something that you both can look forward to, or the kids and yourself. And then we just do a countdown. So
Yeah.
that seems to help, and they do really well with it at 5,
So there was one point where I had to be away for a while, a couple times in a row, and it felt like so much to me, and I had so much guilt, and I was talking to my husband about it, and he he has to go out of town for work every once in a while too, and so this kind of resonated with me when he told me it. But he was like, sometimes when you're gone, it gives us like this special time that we wouldn't have had together. So, like, you see it as a negative, but sometimes it can be a positive. And then you come
yeah,
back and they're so excited to see you. And so,
yeah,
it feels so hard to be away, even if it's just being away for the day at work.
right.
If your kids are little, it's hard, but it kind of takes us back to what we started with, in that you have to ask for help when you need it. You have to be able to rely on people and kind of do the same for them.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think, having a partner that is so supportive is huge. And I
Huge.
agree with that completely. Like, they can have a daddy date,
Yeah.
and that, like, I was gone the other night and they were going, they went out to dinner and they got to go to their,
Cute.
favorite place with dad. And like, it's all in how you present it, right? Like to
Right.
clients, to your kids,
Right.
to everybody. It's all in how you present it. So if you present in this negative way of like, well, I'm giving you guidelines and this is your rules and you can't do this and blah, blah, blah,
Right.
people are going to be like, I don't want to work with you.
Ugh,
But if you're like, hey, we've put together these guidelines so that we can be the best for you, that's a whole different delivery for them. And a reaction that you're going to receive back is going to be completely different. So same with your kids, right? Like
yeah.
if and my husband says this to me too, like they're going to be fine once you're gone, but they also know how to put on the tears and the emotions, and not
Yeah.
that they're not feeling it, but it
It
definitely
works.
can get amplified. Yeah, it totally works and they know it. So he's like, just make it positive, and then they're going to be more positive. And he's right, because when I say like, I'm going to be back in 2 night sleeps and you get to go, out on a date with daddy and you're going to go swimming tomorrow or whatever it is, they're like, okay, like, and they still miss me. They still, would
Right.
love for me to be there, but I'm making it, we're talking about the exciting things, not talking
Mhm.
about the, sad things about me being gone. So it's all in the
Yeah.
delivery, whether you're dealing with, 5-year-olds or you're dealing with clients. I think you just want it to, come from a positive angle, and that you're doing this so that you can be your best for them. And that's a whole different way of taking that as a client or as your child, than if you're like, oh, miss you so much, and you make it this huge emotional thing for them. They're gonna then lean into that, right? And it's
Totally.
gonna be really upsetting. So that's helped a lot. And then when I do go on a big trip, I bring them back something
Yeah.
So, they get they'll be like, "Are you gonna bring us something?" I'm like, It's a surprise, but I don't do that for like small stuff. I'm going to a
Right.
planner,
Same.
fam trip I'll be gone tonight and the rest today and part of tomorrow. And like, they don't get anything
No.
for that. But if it's like the big stuff, then I'll bring them back, a little something. I was in Italy in April for a planner thing. And like, I, brought them a cool little Italian car and like a little car t-shirt with Italian, car, like Fiats on it and stuff. And they get so excited. So, and they talk about it and, it just makes it
Cute.
something for them to look forward to. So,
Yeah, I love it. Okay, we're
yeah.
getting lots and lots of questions. So I want to touch
Yes.
on just one more thing and then we can dive into the questions. Are you
Yes. I
okay
can't wait for
staying
the
a little
questions.
later?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Okay,
I'm
good.
totally fine.
Okay, so you have an incredible network of professionals, not only in California, but all over the country and the world. How do you go about networking and like meeting new people and adding new vendors to kind of your vendor list?
Yeah, that's such a great question. And I think it can definitely be, as a planner, our most challenging aspect is like knowing who to use. And of course, then when we're,
Mhm.
recommending them to our clients, we want to make sure that they deliver. And that's probably the scariest part of our job in some ways. It's like, oh gosh, I'm telling you that this person's going to be great. They better be great.
Right.
So I would say that, like locally, of course, in California, just over all the years, building those relationships has been huge. But then as I've done more destination and getting out of like my, home base, really, networking has been great. I mean, I am selective about like what I go to again, because that takes me away from my family.
Mhm.
But like I have, been involved with like RSVP symposium, which has been great. And, that is worldwide. So really getting to meet some incredible people from around the world, then meeting vendors, within those events and, just building those relationships is great. And then also leaning on again, back to your group of close, planner friends or photographer friends or whatever your aspect you're in. Because, I'll text Jess and say, Jess, I keep calling you out, but I know you're on here. So to do it. But I will say like, hey, do you know like a great,
Yeah.
company in this area? And I know that that's, her expertise. So in like Santa Barbara area, for example. So I, will text her and say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. I'm kind of looking for this specialty, cocktail company. I just did this recently. And she was like, oh, you have to talk to, so and
Perfect.
so, and which was huge. So, and then we booked them and it was great. So it was so helpful to just ask her because I know that she knows. And then I have, other planner friends that will text me and say like, hey, who do you use for
Yeah.
this or that? So having that, those relationships is huge. And I really can't stress that enough because at least for me, up until the last couple years, I really never embraced that. I really stayed in my own lane and kind of just put my head down and worked. And I didn't want to get involved in like, any drama or anything. I think I was kind of afraid of just dealing with too many,
Yeah.
that planners can tend to be, it can tend to be this like very, I think when I started, it was just not as friendly as it is now,
Hmm.
it's a whole different kind of aspect. So I just kind of,
1000%.
right. So I just got used to like, I'm just going to do me and, focus on
Hmm.
my business and like, have other vendor friends, but like I never really had like planner friends. And in the last few years, that's really changed. And it's been so awesome because,
Yeah.
it's again, okay to ask like, hey, do you know this person or that? And now I have them asking me sometimes too. And I love being able to help. So,
Yeah.
um, finding that kind of group or your girl tribe of ladies, I think is really huge. So that's great. And then when you want to branch out to like destination areas, really finding a connection there. The other thing that I know a lot of planners will do is they'll connect with a local planner to that area.
Hmm.
So maybe you're doing a wedding in Italy, you connect with a company out there, and then you
Yeah.
can actually even hire them on with your team to really be your boots on the ground. So that's another way to do it as well, which I think is definitely could be helpful, because that way you've got like all those special contacts, especially when you're looking for handmade, unique things,
Right.
little vendors. Like the big stuff is easier, photo and entertainment and
Sure.
whatnot. But when you're trying to get into the nuances of like, I don't know, if you're in Mexico and you need to like hire a donkey, like I don't know that you just like Google that, you probably need like some
Right.
connection to get the donkey for your welcome party or whatever it is that you're doing. So really that could be a great way as well is looking to another local company and hiring them would be awesome. Or you can go down and, network. But obviously it's hard to do that in so many places. So I think it's better
Right.
to like utilize the friends that you have, if not look to hiring an actual planning company in the area and then have
Mhm.
them really kind of DNC for you.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Well, that is a great topic to take us right into our first question, which is tell me if you have a strategy that works for attracting leads without paying a fortune in marketing.
oh, I saw this question ahead of time and I was thinking about this last night, actually. So whoever asked that, it's a great question. I think that, really to attract the client that you want, you need to be showcasing the work that you want to attract, right? So like if you are looking to I'll just continue using like Italy for as an example. Maybe you want to like really become the Italian, planner. Like you obviously need to have some work that's showcasing what that ideal client is looking for. So kind of having your avatar of the ideal client. So you want to have that work. So if you don't have it, then I think you've got to create it right with portfolio work. And I hate photo shoot thing because I know everybody is like
Yeah.
so hot off and on photo shoots. But even if you're just creating like a tablescape that is exactly like what the look that you would want the client to be looking for that you want to work with. Maybe it's putting something together to really create that look and feel so that then you can put it out there to the world and attract those clients that you're looking for. And I think I will tell you, I have never used a lot of marketing dollars in my business. And I'm 14 years in, and we have a good following on Instagram. I've never paid for any followers. I've never, I up until just a year and a half ago, I did all Instagram myself. Which
Wow.
people were always like, what? How did you do that? And I
How did
just
you have
did.
the time?
How did you do that? And so and basically the following hasn't grown that much because obviously Instagram's changed so much, but I did a majority of that, 70 plus thousand followers or whatever on my own. And so you don't have to spend a lot of money to get those clients. I think you have to network and like make connections. I'm always talking to people. My boys just had surgery last week. They had
Oh my
tubes in their
gosh.
ears, nothing major,
Okay.
but they had
But
tubes in their ears. They're
still
fine.
stressful.
But this still, they first surgery, whatever. And of course, like the nurse in pre-op is, I saw her gorgeous engagement ring, and you better bet I said something about it, and you better bet I gave her a business card. And my
I love
husband was
it.
like, "Oh my God, you never stop." But I always am looking for opportunities to connect with people. And now it just comes naturally. Like I literally am like, that's a gorgeous ring. I think I want to talk to you. Will she ever call? Maybe not. Will she possibly? Who know, she could. So you
Will
never know.
she
Or maybe
follow
she like
you? Probably.
probably, yeah, she probably will. So just looking out for like connections, those are free. Like seeing somebody that, you can just stop and talk to, that's free. And then also just really tapping like the people that you know and getting them to kind of be little voices for you, I think is
Mhm.
really great because they know someone who then knows someone who, it's all about like those just random links. We get so many calls that are like, "Oh, I heard about you from
Yeah.
this person and but like I don't even know those people." Like it's so filtered out from different connections. So I think that's huge as well. And really trying to just put out, on Instagram. I know Instagram's changed so much, but you still like, especially with, reels and videos. Putting the work out there that you're wanting to attract more of. It doesn't have to always just come down to dollars because I never spent a lot of marketing dollars on my business throughout. I mean,
Yeah.
and I've done some advertising and stuff, but it's never been a huge thing. And I feel like I've done okay. So I would encourage you to,
Yeah.
just make those connections and
Yeah.
hopefully.
And I think to add on to that is to take advantage of the clients you already do have
Exactly.
and make sure that they're sending all of their referrals and after their wedding, staying top of mind with them. Like the planning company Bridal Bliss sends an anniversary card at the first year and a gift for
Yeah.
the first baby because they want, first of all, to congratulate them, but
Yeah,
also to stay top of mind. So when that person's
exactly.
friend is married, they're engaged, they're saying, well, make sure that you call Bridal Bliss first. And
Totally.
another piece of that is also your vendor relationships. There are so many referrals that come in, especially from venues. Sometimes that's the first thing that people go to and then get frustrated and hire a planner. So getting on the list where you want to be working and referrals from the vendors that you want to be working with and creating a relationship. And even if maybe your experience isn't up to par with the level of client that they have, as you continue to grow and keep in touch and build
Right.
that, they're more likely to recommend you. So keeping
Yeah.
top of mind and networking is so important for so many reasons, not only for getting new business, but like helping each other. Like we talked about, it's
Yeah.
so important. And that is free. It's just time, which I guess
Yeah.
isn't free, but it's not money.
But
Um,
I honestly think that if you, I mean, instead of spending like, trying to do ads or even like, let's say you have, for this question, I mean, like $100 a month, I don't know, whatever it is, like let's $100, like connect with a venue that you really want to work with and ask them out to
mhm,
lunch. Like, don't ask
mhm,
about you going to get lunch hosted there, but take them out to lunch. Like last week, I was out to lunch with one of my friends from one of my favorite venues, and I had my photographer friends with us as well. And like we literally put together a lunch off property, like not related to the resort at all. And if you had $100 that you wanted to set aside a month, and you picked one person to take to lunch and really have one-on-one time with them and just host them for a
mhm.
lunch, can you imagine what kind of impact you can make for $1,200 a year? You know what I mean? Like really, you could take some
Yeah,
smaller marketing dollars and probably make way better connections by just asking someone out to lunch. Like it's so like, let's go back to the basics of like old school
right,
business, like
right.
the power lunch. It doesn't, I mean, it's still all the same. I think that is way more impactful than trying to spend, $500 on ads on Instagram or whatever it is. So,
Yeah,
that would be my
yeah.
suggestion is like
And
start small.
get creative with that. It doesn't, lunch
Yes.
is great, absolutely. But I remember once a while ago, there was this florist that really wanted to work with us. And she said, I want to take you out to a pedicure. And I was like, oh,
Yes.
that's new. And I still remember it was so many years ago. We ended up working with her, not
Yeah.
only because the pedicure was great, but she was a really incredible florist. So,
Yeah.
just getting in front of people and you'll hear no a lot and that's okay. And you'll just have to keep moving on. But I think that's
Yeah.
really important.
You just keep moving on. But yeah, agreed. And yeah, I love the pedicure idea. We actually every year up until like COVID, I did a holiday party for like our top venues, and I rented out a space at a spa at
I
a
love
mani
it.
pedi place, and we did mani pedis. I had like snacks, goodies. We did
Cute.
gorgeous like gift boxes for everybody. It was all themed out, and every year they look forward to that. I mean,
I'm
it
sure.
became like so, the
Oh,
AGA
cute.
holiday soiree. It was like a whole thing. And then obviously when COVID happened, that kind of died. And then I did it once after that. And then maybe I'll try to bring it this year, but
Yeah.
it was the best and the best money I could spend, to really have them undivided. And I kept it small, maybe it was 10 people, but it was the key venues that I worked with and wanted to continue to have a strong relationship with. And I had them uninterrupted with me and my team for 2 hours. So yeah,
Love it.
get
I love
creative.
it. Okay, another question. What are your favorite apps and tools to use for your family, your team, and or yourself?
So for my team, we use Slack, which I love.
Mhm.
I've used Asana, I've used some different ones, but I really like Slack. That's something that, if you have a team, I think is huge because, it's just a great way to drop so much information, keep it organized, things like that. A lot of times we'll take emails, even when those conversations get crazy with clients, and drop them we have each folder by client.
Mhm.
So I do like Slack quite a bit. We also use Google Drive and Docs and all those specs, and of course keeping every Google Calendar, of course, keeping organized. I do have like the boys, I have the twins, like they have their own color and calendar,
Mhm.
so everybody can see kind of what's going on. So we pretty much calendar everything that. And for me, family and business, it all kind of intertwines. So it's just all
Yeah.
one calendar because I can't keep a whole separate family calendar. Like I don't have time for that. So the twins get their own, color. Um, and then, but other than that, I mean, I don't use a ton of different things. I try to keep it simple because I can't handle anymore. I find like you see all these fandangled apps, but then I like download it and try it for 2 seconds, and I'm like, it's one more thing I have to look at.
Right.
So to me, I kind of keep it simple and sweet. But those I find are really helpful, especially Slack, and of course Google Calendar is just like so great to color code everything, and the whole team can see it, so they know where I am or where I'm supposed to be, or tell me where I'm supposed to be, because that's generally what it is. Like, what am I doing today? I also, my assistant, like every day will send me like, here's the key things that you need to get done today. And here's
That's
kind of what your
awesome.
schedule is, which is great. And first thing in the morning to kind of know like what does the day look like, because sometimes
Mhm.
I am just going 100 miles in a minute and I don't even have time to look at like what the next day is. So
Yeah.
that's really helpful as well.
Okay. Can you tell us the name of that book that you liked? And Katie will post a link to it in comments
Yes.
too.
It's 40 Days to a Joy-Filled Life by Tommy Newberry.
Okay.
Can't rec it's
Amazing.
like 10, I think it was like 10 or $12 on Amazon. I've already gifted one to a friend because I'm like really excited about this. And I'm like taking notes and doing all these things,
Oh,
and
I
yeah,
love
but
it. Okay.
and I know I haven't read the book, but this is like the second portion that is really more of a workbook style. So I'm just doing it every morning, and it's quick. I mean, you could literally spend like 15 minutes, maybe even 10,
Okay.
just writing, and it prompts you to basically write things right into the book, so you don't have to just like don't even really need
So
another
cool.
pen or paper. It's easy. So
Okay. Any other books or podcasts that you recommend or like?
oh, yeah, I thought about this too, because I'm like, again, I don't really spend most of the time when I wish I could listen to podcasts more, but most of the time when I'm in the car, I'm on the phone with somebody. So I don't
Yeah.
like get to listen that much. But I would love to do that even more. But I do listen to Mel Robbins' podcast
Mm.
sometimes, which I've really enjoyed. And then I have a good friend of mine who's actually one of my photographers as well, but her and I are we've had such a, not only a friendship outside of like business, but she has been such an amazing like confidant, and like just a person that I can share and talk about things. And so we actually voice text each other all the time,
Oh, cool.
because we're both busy and we don't have time to actually like talk. Um, uh, all the time as much as we'd like to. So we'll just send text. So like we'll voice message each other. And that has been really great because I can hear her voice. I can listen to her audio. If I'm, feeling something or she's feeling something, we just are like sending it to each other. We can listen when we have time and like send it back. I think having a friend that like really
Hmm.
gets and
Hmm.
we're in the same industry, but we don't do the same thing. And so I
Yeah.
think her perspective is so enlightening for me, and hopefully I do the same for her. And we're just there to kind of support each other, but it's great to just do like little audio messages because we're both busy moms too, so it's like you just can't always get on the
Yeah.
phone and chat,
Yeah.
but finding like a person that's really supportive for you, I think, is huge. And it's not fancy like book or podcast, but I find it to be really helpful for me, and really she gets me through sometimes when you're having a problem with something. You can just talk to someone who can support you.
Yeah. You should check out, there's an app called Voxer. Are you
Boxer.
familiar with it? It's great
No.
for chats back and forth. So you don't have to record a voice memo. It's really great. I use it all the time.
Well, yeah, see, I was using Marco Polo with her, which I don't
Oh,
know if
yeah.
people have done that app, but again, it's still one more thing I have to open. And so the one thing I like about the voice text is it's in text and I'm always looking at my text messages,
Yeah.
right? But like, I feel like when it's one more thing I have to open, I just, but I will check out Boxer, but
Check it out.
sometimes
I
I'm like,
swear it's
I
easier.
forget to open it to even like look at it.
Totally.
I'm not the person that's going to give you all the like amazing techie tools. This is your job, Nora.
I know.
I just am more the like talk and go through things and but
We
it's so
we've
funny. But
got you at rock, paper,
yeah,
coin. We've got all your automations and all the
yes,
things.
exactly. Yeah, that's why I
Um,
need all the automation with you.
okay, one last question. I
Yeah.
ask this to everybody because I love hearing these stories. What is your like craziest horror story that you had to deal with as a wedding planner? Like something that's gone wrong that you had to deal with?
Oh my goodness. Okay. Well, I've had many, but the first one that comes to mind is I had a wedding a few years ago and it was beautiful. We did like a whole tent, this whole situation had these huge chandeliers hanging. And I was shooting all the, detail shots with photo, video, and I actually it's kind of funny. I was touching up my face with my powder, like on the mirror, because I was gonna like get a couple shots in with the design, and all of a
Uh,
sudden I hear the loudest like crashing boom of my life, and I slowly turn around. It was like slow motion.
oh
I
my
turn
gosh.
around, and this massive chandelier has come crashing down on top of a mirrored table, which
Oh my gosh.
shattered everything. Like mirrored table, gone, all of it. And I mean, it could have actually like really, really hurt somebody. I mean, it was like a 200-pound chandelier. And the only reason, I mean, I was supposed to have let guests in like right about at that time, but I held off a couple minutes because we were trying to get a few more shots. And that was a God thing right there. Like he's had me
Oh
for sure,
my
because
gosh.
if not, guests would have been in, and if someone was sitting at that table, it would have been could have been really bad. And
So what did you
we
do?
we got that chandelier back up, fixed, changed the mirrors. Miraculously, there was like they had one extra top
Oh my
piece of
gosh.
glass. Um, Change that out. Literally, the flowers luckily caught a lot of the weight in the middle, or like from it fully shattering. So it just like cracked other areas, broke all the glass. I always have extra. So we literally like did a whole changeover. And I think within like 15 minutes, we had everybody in, and
Wow.
and you would never know that it happened. And it's still one of
Insane.
my favorite weddings. This was like 2019.
Oh
And
my gosh.
yeah, it was wild and
And
scary. And
that's why
I
you
didn't
hire
see it because my
professionals.
parents do it. Yes, yes. So we whipped that back together, got it all up. Client didn't even know about it. I don't know if they ever ended up knowing about it, because I
Oh
don't
my
think I ended up
gosh.
telling them. Normally, I like will
Yeah.
talk about stuff later, but I don't even think they ever knew. And it's one of, I mean, I'm sure a lot of people have seen it on our Instagram over the years. It was just a stunning wedding. But yeah, that was a
That's
doozy.
wild.
That was wild. I mean, so that's a good one.
Oh
I'll
my
write that in
gosh.
my book one day.
Yeah, no doubt. Well, Natalie, thank you so much for coming on and chatting so
Welcome.
candidly with us. You've had some rough times, and I'm so glad to see that you're coming through and you're doing
Thank
okay,
you.
and you're relying on others. So kudos to you and cheers to you. And
Thank
you
you. I know.
know,
I feel like we like could have like a second session. There's like
I
so much
know.
more to say, but I hope that I was helpful in some ways for everybody listening and watching, and just that I'm happy to reach out to me if there's something else I can elaborate on, or if your question didn't get answered. DM me on Instagram. I'll definitely answer you and get something off your way. And I love being able to do this. This was great. I hope that it was helpful.
Oh, absolutely. What's the best way to get a hold of you?
So just I'd say Instagram, probably DM, just at a good affair. Or if you want to send, an email, it's Natalie@agoodaffair.com. But and feel free to reach out anytime, and happy to answer questions. And like I said, if I didn't get to yours, then I'd love to answer you. So reach out, and I'll
Great.
be here.
I love it. Well, thank you, Natalie, and thank you to everyone that's joined us
Thanks,
today.
guys.
Be on the lookout for a sign up for next month's guest, Dana Caldwell, who is going to talk with us even more about all the things about momming and being in the industry and all those unfiltered things that we don't talk about very often. So thanks,
Can't
Natalie.
wait to
So
hear
good
it.
to
Oh
see
my
you.
gosh, absolutely. Have a great day, guys.
Everybody
Best
have
of
a good
luck.
day. Bye
All
bye.
right, bye.